This week we're going to do a little bit of river fishing. This isn't something you guys see me do a whole lot. I typically night fish when I fish the river, so I don't film a whole lot when I do it. But this is one of those weird water levels where I'll actually go out and fish the day. When I'm fishing the river, I really look for those water levels where I'll know I can find structure that'll have a nice big eddy behind it. In this case, this water outflow provides a nice eddy behind it. Typically the water is much lower than this, and there isn't really much of an eddy created by this spot, but because the water's up, this back end behind this has a big eddy, and the fish tend to end up in this section. Now what I'm doing is pretty simple. I'm just tightlining worms. There isn't really anything special about what I'm doing or why I'm doing it, but there are just a couple things you really should keep in mind when you're fishing the river this time of year. As you can see, the water I'm fishing is incredibly muddy. Visibility is about as low as it can be in the Ohio. So you're not really going to have much luck on lures, so this is a good time of year to fish bait. When you're fishing bait in the Ohio River, you need to be a little bit patient. This time of year, there's not going to always be a consistent number of fish in that shallower area where you can cast to, so you really need to be selective with where you're going to fish. The reason I'm fishing the eddy is because I know this place tends to hold schools of bait fish this time of year. And whenever you find a school of bait fish in the Ohio River, you tend to find some of the predatory fish that go along with that. Now I'll be honest, I wanted to catch my first river fish of the year, and I really expected that to be a catfish. This feature tends to provide a lot of catfish for me, but today it had something better in store. With that school of bait fish, it actually brought schools of stripers and hybrid striped bass. So all I'm doing is I'm casting to the very back edge of this eddy with about a ½ ounce lead. The water wasn't moving very fast, so I could get away with a very light lead. Typically when I'm fishing the Ohio River, I'm going to use 1 to 2 ounce leads, but because the water level had kind of stabilized out, it let me get away with using lighter. And actually the fun part about this is once I knew I was into a school of smaller fish, I was actually able to even set up my ultralight. I haven't had a fish out of the Ohio River on this ultralight yet, so I thought that'd be kind of a fun thing to do. Now I don't really have any footage of this, but I wanted to talk you guys through this. To prove my concept that fishing the downstream side of this outflow is an effective method here in this eddy, I also set up a rod on the upstream side of this point. And as you'd expect, that upstream rod didn't catch a single fish. It got tapped twice, nothing ever held on to it, while my rods in the eddy formed by this outflow caught a decent number of fish. The editing of this video can be a little deceptive. This really looks like I was having a really good day, and this is true. For about an hour here, I caught a lot of fish. But you have to understand, there's also about another hour where there was absolutely nothing in this area. But as soon as that school of bait fish left, I pretty much lost all of the interest I had from the fish. So keep that in mind. While spots like this do typically hold a number of fish, once that school of bait fish leaves, you're kind of out of luck until another one moves in, or in some cases if you have access to more features that are likely to hold fish, it might be more beneficial to actually move on to a new place. As far as bait selection goes this time of year, if you're going to fish for striped bass, you can get away with just about anything. Worms work well, you can catch them on cut bait occasionally, and minnows are a great bait. Since I'm fishing low clarity water, I tend to stick with night crawlers. It's a really good all-around bait. You'll catch everything in the Ohio River on that. But basically that's my strategy this time of year. When the water's up a little bit, always go for those eddies. Try to find a feature like that where you know bait fish can rest in. If you can find a spot like that, you'll typically find fish. And the only other thing is to just be patient. A lot of times it's just a matter of time until a school of bait fish enter your swim, and with them a school of predatory fish. So just stay patient, keep your lines up, make sure there's fresh bait on it. A lot of times, places like this, you'll get these tiny little catfish that'll come up and chew away at your night crawler, so make sure you check your lines every 15 minutes or so. The only other thing that needs to be mentioned about this is you need to make sure you remember to loosen your drag when you're fishing bait. I obviously forgot to do that. As you saw in one of the clips, I almost lost my rod into the river. This is about all I've got for this video, guys, so as always, good luck and tight lines.